Welcome into the show, everyone. My name is Mark Farzetta. This is the Farzy Show, presented by Steven Singer of Steven Singer Jewelers. And ladies and gentlemen, we're doomed. We are so doomed. Dear Lord, are we doomed? Listening to Daryl Morey yesterday, I feel like this franchise is doomed. I feel like we're going to go into next year and go about the season the exact same way with, trying to, temper our expectations about what this team could deliver. And it's going to be another second round playoff exit. That's what I feel like. If we're that lucky to get to the second round of the playoffs, that's what I feel like right now. I feel like we are on the verge of watching the 76ers completely squander the quote unquote process. And I feel like the investment that we made as fans is not going to pay off at all. Now, what's the investment we made? It's not just hooting and hollering and cheering and spending our money to go see games and all that stuff, which I've done. It's not just credential here, okay? It's spending money on tickets and all that stuff. It's not just about that. It's about the investment of time we gave up as a fan base. 3 years of god-awful basketball, a 10-win season, all that. Terrible. And all we're going to get from it is consistent playoff appearances, which you could have done before, and a whole list of second-round playoff exits and first-round playoff exits, and nothing better than that. The idea of getting the MVP, as I said yesterday, it's been kind of tarnished already because of the performance in the playoffs and the performance in the most clutch situations in the playoffs. And Daryl Morey, the thing that is on repeat in my brain, Daryl Morey had the gall to take a microphone yesterday and say, we have a roster ready to win. I'll let you hear it from the man himself. And the thing that is so, and I included the question because I wanted there to be absolutely zero question about context, about how he meant it, the way he was saying. It is unbelievable that you could say as a general manager, we have a roster ready to win. The evidence does not in any way, shape, or form go to that favor. When you have proven consistently you don't have an offense ready to win. You've had James Harden and Joel Embiid together for a year and a half, and you have not been able to get past the second round of the playoffs with those two. To say right now you have a roster ready to win, the proof is right there. You do not have a roster ready to win. We all watched this team try to win, and they were unable to win. We've seen it multiple times with Doc Rivers, without Doc Rivers, with Daryl Morey, without Daryl Morey, and I haven't seen that much of a difference. Again, Game 7 of the Eastern Conference semifinals continues to be the brick wall in front of the Philadelphia 76ers, with Joel Embiid, without Joel Embiid, with James Harden, without James Harden. It continues to be, for the last 22 years, a brick wall with reinforced concrete behind it. There's no getting past it right now. And to hear Daryl Morey talk about yesterday, there's a roster ready to win. I thought, well, aren't you doing a great job? Oh, you put together this great roster, but Doc Rivers, he's the guy that just can't do it. He's the guy that can't get this team through the brick wall. He can't be forget sledgehammer, the bulldozer. I don't know. I don't think that this team is ready to win. And here's the scary part. And our man Marcus Hayes highlights this. By the way, he joins us today. He's our guest today, MarcusHayesInquirer.com. Make sure you guys are following everything Marcus is doing. But not a Hayes, but a Haynes. That would be Chris Haynes. Puts this out into the universe, saying that James Harden is going to opt out of his 4-year deal. He's going to be opting out of his player option for next year and seek a 4-year deal. If James Harden, because Marcus Hayes put this in my head, if James Harden decides to opt out of his player option, I will, first off, thank my lucky stars that James Harden has saved us from him. It's not a matter of the Sixers like, really, no, stick around for one more year. Stick around for one more year. We'll give him another great deal, and then maybe test free agency. I don't think that's happening. I think what's going to happen from that report, from Chris Hayes, credible reporter, I don't think what's going to happen is James Harden is opting in. All right. That opt-out is happening. He is opting out. He is exercising his player option and saying, Sixers, on these terms, thanks, but no thanks. And we can all think for a second, hallelujah, this is amazing. This is great. No more James Harden. No more worrying about him in the playoffs. The Sixers can use that money and spend it in, for somebody else, invest it into somebody else, and we'll be fine and dandy, hopefully, after that. That's what I think is going to happen. And then after that, what's going to happen? And I'm not saying this is good, and I'm certainly not rooting for it, but there's a distinct possibility that the 76ers then look at James Harden and go, okay, here's a 4-year deal at 200 plus. What? James Harden's going to be 34 years old this summer. Joel Embiid will be 30 years old this season. If the Sixers have the good fortune of James Harden saying thanks, but no thanks to that player option and seeking free agency and seeking the best deal, and the Sixers then become the one to re-sign James Harden to a longer term, what did James Harden do in this postseason to make you go, oh, yeah, definitely? I mean, he played. I give him credit for that. I mean, Joel Embiid missed some games, but what did he do to make you think that next to Joel Embiid, this team's going to win? This team's going to win a championship. I will say there would be rioting in the streets if James Harden gets that long-term deal. People are ready, myself included, to really consider just blowing this up and weighing the options there. And the only way to do that is if James Harden isn't here. And I'll say this. Here's my increase of confidence in the Sixers going into next year. Increase of confidence is knowing that James Harden isn't here. Okay, what can you do with that money without James Harden? What can you do with that money that you're not going to be paying James Harden? Hopefully invest it in another free agent. Hopefully invest it in a trade where you're going to be able to afford a player of bigger money. Let's look at that. That increases my optimism about the future of the 76ers. And then you know what else does? And it's another step down, another step up in terms of confidence. If you just hit the reset button, it's entirely. And you say, all right, what do you get? 4 first-round picks for Rudy Gobert? All right. You trade Joel Embiid, the reigning MVP of the NBA. You trade him, and you get back, what, 4 more first-round picks, 5 first-round picks, some players as well. It's not going to be sexy. It's not going to be great. It'll be Tyrese Maxey's Philadelphia 76ers. Hopefully, hold on to one player here that, it still has a very bright future ahead of him with a 22-year-old Tyrese Maxey. It'll change my expectations for next year, certainly. They could still make the playoffs. Still a possibility. They could be a play-in team, right? But then the future, what are you getting? Future with those first-round picks, your own first-round pick, being a team that could miss the playoffs, have a better first-round pick. What's going to happen to the Sixers in that future over those 4 years where you could be having some nice first-round picks? You could have 2 first-round picks be moving up. I hate to say it because the word makes people think the wrong thing, but a whole new process would start over again. This time around, I don't think it would be so blatantly obvious that you were trying to be the worst team in the league to only acquire assets. And I think if the NBA saw the Sixers were trying to trade Joel Embiid, they'd do a dance. Oh, he could go somewhere else? He could go to Miami? Not that they would need him after the way they played last night. Good Lord, Jimmy Butler just continues to hurt. But this Sixers team just continues to be at that crossroads. They are at that fork in the road where any direction they choose could lead to just another year of a mediocre playoff exit, or it could lead to hope for the future that you're actually able to rebuild this franchise. And the further away we get from this game, the more I get convinced that it's just time to hit the blow-up button and start over. Because I'm tired of seeing Joel Embiid get bounced out of the second round of the playoffs. Love watching his game, his regular season game, very entertaining, and he's so great. But then it comes to the playoff, and it's always something with Joel Embiid in the playoffs. I give him credit for this. I only heard about the injury once. When he came back for game 2 against the Celtics, after the game, we needed this game to get the rust off and play my way back, but I wasn't going to be back for 4 to 6 weeks. If I really listened to the doctors, this injury is supposed to take that long to heal and get back to 100%. And then after that, I didn't hear about it. I didn't hear about it in his post-game press conference. I didn't hear him using it as an excuse, which I like. Thank you. But we all know what's going on. To be missing him at all in the playoffs sucks. And I know injuries are part of the game, but it just seems like it's a bigger part of the game when it comes to Joel Embiid and it comes to James Harden. And I am done with it. As a Sixers fan, as someone who is looking at this team, saying, how do you get the best out of this team? I don't know who comes in and does that. I would love to see a coach come in here and wave their magic wand and say, oh, now James Harden and Joel Embiid, you guys both are going to be healthy. Both will play great in the playoffs. Both won't disappear in clutch moments of the games. This is going to be great. I'd love to see a coach do that. I just don't have confidence in any of the names that are out there that they will come in and do it. And Mike D'Antoni, oh, God, nope. I am so out on that name. So out on that name. I don't understand the infatuation. And if this becomes even more of an old Rockets retirement community, I'm going to lose my damn mind. I am going to lose my damn mind because a couple of things, other than we have a roster ready to win, jumped out to me about this whole scenario. How is Joel Embiid shocked exactly that you're firing his head coach? How does that happen? How does your star player, your franchise player, the guy you have built around, how is he shocked and disappointed? How does he not have more of a say in the situation? How is he not more aware of the situation? To say shocked, I hope you're overselling it there, Daryl Morey, because I would think you would keep your star player, your MVP, a little bit informed as to what the hell is going on with this franchise. And if you bring in Mike D'Antoni, that's like a double down in investing in James Harden. And I am not anywhere near that. So let's just live in this world for a second, this hypothetical, if you will. So you get bounced out of the second round of the playoffs again. Terrible. You go into the offseason, you fire your head coach. Doc Rivers is fired. You then allow James Harden to opt out of his player option. Now, allow. Okay, that word allow. Let's just focus on that for a second. Meaning you don't sell him on the idea of taking that player option. But no, you should really do this, right? So he frees himself, goes into free agency. Then you re-sign him for crazy money, insane money for an aging 34-year-old point guard. And then you sign the head coach that everyone thinks he wants in Mike D'Antoni. Daryl Morey, who's never won a championship, doubling down on James Harden, who's never won a championship, doubling down on Mike D'Antoni, who's never won a championship. Where's Joel Embiid all of this? Did you guys even have a conversation about who he might want as the next head coach? This is becoming a Rockets retirement community, and I don't need that in Philadelphia. That's what it would be after all those moves that would be made. I have zero confidence. Zero confidence. And I'm looking at Daryl Morey like, all right, wave your magic wand. What are you going to do, man? What move are you going to make that's going to make us feel better about this season? The only one that jumps to mind is somehow you get Dame Lillard. That's the only one. And I don't think that's happening. So I am in a pit of despair when it comes to the future of the 76ers. Here's Daryl Morey, the way he talked about it yesterday when it came to Joel Embiid finding out that Doc Rivers was not going to go on as the Sixers head coach.
They had a strong relationship. I mean, I have to make tough calls all the time with trades. Joel was disappointed in, some of it was he didn't know the player we were getting in the trade who ended up helping us, but he was disappointed in the players that went out. I think it's natural to be very close with the people in the locker room. He was very close with Coach Rivers. And, yeah, he was shocked about the change. And, and it's my job to help convince him that the new coach is someone that he'll have a great relationship with as well.
And let's all hope that that's the way it goes out. I hate how the franchise player, the MVP of the league, he's shocked by the idea that you'd fire his head coach. And how does James Harden win a battle over Joel Embiid? How does that happen? Oh, his buddy is the president of basketball operations. I guess that's how that would happen. Cool. So we're now looking more possibly at a James Harden 76ers, a led 76ers team, than we are at a Joel Embiid led 76ers team. Hey, you're picking, I think, the greater of two evils. Let's put it that way. if you're doubling down on James Harden and not Joel Embiid. I think James Harden just needs to find his way out of town at this point. Money-wise, production-wise, yeah, no thanks. No, thank you. It is beyond frustrating. And then finally, this is the one that really got me. I included the question. I think this is Deuces Rogers from 6ABC, who asked the question to Daryl Morey about now this is asking about criteria for the next 76ers head coach. I believe the question he's really asking is JJ Redick getting real consideration for being the next head coach? Or is Sam Cassell, I guess. But at least Sam Cassell has been a coach in the NBA, assistant, granted, but a coach nonetheless. So here's Deuces Rogers asking the question. Listen to Daryl Morey's response and tell me what jumps out to you.
What's the profile of the new head coach, and is previous NBA head coaching experience a requirement?
I wouldn't say requirement. I think when you get into requirements, you miss opportunities. But I would say that we have a roster ready to win. Obviously, we've been very successful, just came up short of our goals. I think we have an MVP level player, and I do think if you look at the history of the NBA, it's challenging to walk into that as a first-time NBA head coach. That doesn't mean it hasn't worked. There are, for every rule, there are solid counterexamples. So we're not going to go in with like a prescription or proscription, but, we're looking for someone who brings leadership accountability, someone who is good at tactics, someone who has great relationship with his star players.
The only word that I think Daryl Morey regretted in his press conference was tactics. It became a focal point. What do you say, tactics? What do you mean exactly? But you know what? I don't think he did regret saying. But I wish he did this.
But I would say that we have a roster ready to win. But I would say that we have a roster ready to win.
But
I would say that we have a roster ready to win.
That has been on repeat in my brain.
But I would say that we have a roster ready to win.
Ever since the press conference at 12:30 yesterday afternoon. A roster ready to win. There is an overwhelming amount of evidence to suggest that you do not have a roster ready to win. I'll say that you have a roster ready to make the playoffs, which in sports nowadays is not very difficult. It's like people say, well, they were a playoff team. That doesn't really matter anymore. Oh, they're a playoff team. Really? Does that matter? Because it's kind of easy to make the playoffs right now. You could be a mediocre team making the playoffs. You could be a 500 team making the playoffs. Literally be a 500 team making the playoffs. That's not a brag anymore. If you're a number 1 seed, number 2 seed, number 3 seed, that's a brag. And this team, number 1, number 2, number 3, they've been that. Yeah, that's fair. But ready to win. You're talking about winning championships, not good rankings during the regular season. You got an MVP. That is a nice thing. If you're a coach, you'd like to have an MVP on your team, sure, right? Yeah, absolutely. But what about an MVP that fizzles out in the playoffs? You want that? No, thank you. And here's the other thing that I wanted to get to earlier. It escaped my mind, Miss Guzzi. The more I think about the idea of Joel Embiid not getting the ball and saying that he couldn't get the ball in the final 6 minutes of Game 6. So that means that James Harden was running things and he wasn't looking for his big man. That's off-putting. That's very, 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 very off-putting. And when it comes to Joel Embiid not having opportunities to try to help his team, I mean, why should I even believe if he had the ball, he would change things? Considering in Game 7, they laid an egg. That's my laid an egg soundbite. I don't. I think what we're going to be rooting for in this offseason is drastic change. And it's a good start, I think, to have your one drastic change be you have a new starting point guard going into next year. A couple of things that I did like, and that means James Harden isn't here. I think the thing that would be the easiest pill to swallow for people, and I don't necessarily think this is the right decision, but I think the easiest pill to swallow for people would be if a coach like Nick Nurse, Mike Budenholzer, Sam Cassell even, I think any one of those three guys, they take over as the head coach. I think people would see why they did that and be in favor of doing that. But I think Nick Nurse would be the best name out there right now. And then James Harden's not back. and they're able to get another major talent to come in here with Joel Embiid. I think that would be the easiest pill to swallow. The toughest pill to swallow is flip up the glass plate, hit the red button, blow up the 76ers. And that's where you start looking around and start thinking who's going to be the next star on this team. You start thinking about the future. You start thinking, well, you did as much as you could with this team, and we're moving on. And you know what it would be like? And I know nobody, and I love the Flyers to pieces, but I know nobody will like this comparison. But it's the last time we saw something very close to it. The Flyers go to the Stanley Cup Finals, and next thing you know, Jeff Carter and Mike Richards are traded. Like your captain, one of your leading goal scorers, if not the leading goal scorer that year, they're traded. And Paul Holmgren's last words before he made those trades, I like our team. I'm sorry, I gave him a Canadian accent. I shouldn't have done that. Minnesota. We like our team. And he had traded the two top players on the team. And then the next press conference, we felt like we went as far as we could with those guys, so it was time to move on. I kind of feel like that right now with the 76ers. I think we've gone as far as we can with this franchise as it is, and it's time to move on. It would be a very similar, and I know I said this yesterday, but it's still ruminating. It would be a very similar Jimmy Butler type of decision, where it's not the most popular decision in the moment, but it seems like the right choice. Well, no, you can't just give up right now on Ben Simmons, so you got to move on for Jimmy Butler. Wrong. Oh, we can't just give up on Joel Embiid and James Harden. We got to make sure that we keep this together. All right, James Harden can go, but we'll keep these. We'll trade it, or he'll opt out. We'll let him go. We'll use that money for something else. That would be a tough decision for some people, not for me. I think most people wouldn't think of it as a tough decision. But moving on from Joel Embiid, extremely tough decision. My finger's right there on the button, man. If James Harden's back here, I just feel like we are so doomed, and I have a feeling that James Harden's going to be back here for a poop ton of money. And that is not a good feeling. One thing I did like about Daryl, two things. How about this? How about this for optimism? How about this for, being a nice guy, right? Okay. Listen to this. Two things I liked about Daryl Morey and what he had to say yesterday. Two things I liked. One was that when everyone was bringing up the second round stuff, you haven't made it past second round, you haven't made it past second round, you haven't made it past second round. He said, let's take it easy on the second round thing. Right? The goal is to win a championship. And I like if he continues to focus on the second round, then I have an even bigger problem with Daryl Morey right now. Despite my lack of confidence that he's the guy to turn this around, because I don't think you just snap your fingers and turn it around all of a sudden. I'd give him more credit if he blew it up than anything else. But if he's able to wave that magic wand and get a superstar in there next to Joel Embiid, then great. But given the time that we're in right now, these are little morsels of optimism I have to take. He shot down the second round exits and said, yeah, that's not the goal. The goal is to win a championship. Okay, thank you for at least stating that we're all on the same page here. That's great. The other thing that he said that I liked, and this is just a good thing for, I think, everybody, if you focus on requirements, you miss opportunity. And that's just a very nice, like, Confucius-esque statement to make, and I enjoyed it. The other thing, okay, three things I like. The Trent Grimm reference to Howard Eskin. That was pretty funny. I did enjoy that. For fellow Ted Lasso fans, any Trent Grimm reference is pretty amazing. So that's what I got for you as far as the 76ers go. And the future ain't bright, folks. It continues to not be bright. Hey, the Philadelphia Phillies played baseball. Speaking of optimism, Taijuan Walker, 40-pitch, 4-run, 4-hit, 2-walk, 2/3 of an inning, first inning for the Phillies. Oh, yeah, that's right. 2/3 of an inning. In case you didn't watch the game, in case you missed the first inning, in case you were still at work or something or whatever on a Zoom meeting or whatever. Taijuan Walker, terrible. Just when you thought you started to figure it out. 6 runs, 1 run, 6 innings, 1 run, 6 innings, 3 runs, his last 2 starts, goes out there 2 1/3 innings pitched, 2 1/3 inning pitched, 2 1/3 not even inning pitched, 4 earned runs. Cool. Off to a great start. Good, great, grand. Then the Phillies are actually able to tie things up in the 4th inning. First inning, they go down 4-0. 4th inning, they fight back. By the way, it was, who was it that came in? Matt Strahm came in. He settled things down. Good God. And then in the fourth inning, the Phillies were able to come back. JT Realmuto had a 2-run RBI double. Alec Boehm had a sac fly RBI. Schwarber scored the run, so it's 4-3. Fifth inning, Bryson Stott comes in there, hits a solo home run. They tie it up at 4-all. So they tied it up by the fifth inning, excuse me. And then Gregory Soto, who has been very reliable out of the bullpen, he had two really rough outings this year. And this was by far his worst, his third rough outing this year. Comes out of the bullpen in the bottom of the eighth inning. Like I said, been Mr. Reliable. And I imagined in this inning, after it was all done, because Davis steps up there, he pinch hits for Sable. Haniger goes up there, he pinch hits, he gets a single. So you have Davis, Haniger, they both lead off the inning with singles. Then Bart comes up there, lays down a bunt down the third base line. He's safe, no throw by Gregory Soto. You blink, folks, you blink, and the bases are now loaded in a tie ball game. I pictured Gabe Kapler in the dugout just pushing buttons like, watch how I'm going to mess with my former team that fired me. And he just goes like, beep, bop, bop, beep, 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 bop, bop, beep. And all of a sudden, boom, bases are loaded, nobody out. Tie ball game. Look what I have created. Pinch hit, lay down a bunt, bases loaded. So he goes out there, bases loaded. Wade gets the ground out, second to home, ground out. You can see your way out of the inning now. Maybe you get a double play ball. Estrada goes up there, takes care of that. It's a one. He gets the RBI single to center, little bouncer up the middle. Conforto, of all people, the guy, the Philly killer. Michael Conforto, former Met, he goes up there, grounds into the 5-1 force out, and then you're thinking, okay, all right, just get one more of these outs, and you're good. It's 1-1 ball. You can get a home run at the bottom of the top of the ninth inning. Flores steps up there, extinguishes all hope. 2-run single to left field. Then Yastrzemski strikes out. By the time the dust settles, it's 7-4, and that would be the final score of the ball game. Unfortunately, I give a lot of credit to JT Realmuto. He is really coming on strong, and he's been coming on strong for a while now. Another criticism I'll throw, and I know this isn't the most appropriate time because the guy actually had a couple of hits for you yesterday, but holy pots and pans, ladies and gentlemen. Trey Turner yesterday gets 2 hits. And I can't remember a time where I had less faith in a guy that was still consistently getting on base every single game. And he's getting on base every single game, it seems like. All right, he's missed maybe one game he hasn't been on base. But, like, in the last, 20 or whatever it's been. But for me, I've never seen a guy get on base that much, and I have zero confidence. Zero confidence. And yesterday on the broadcast, they were making a joke out of how many times he's down the count 0-2. And I guess it's just the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over and expecting something different. But maybe this is the game that he starts breaking out of it because of a couple of hits. But I'm still sitting here waiting for the guy that we thought we were getting in the offseason, because I haven't seen that guy. And even when he has been that guy, the Phillies haven't been able to capitalize on it. Like, this is terrible. This is an embarrassing run for the Phillies to be on. You lose, 6 in a row? You win 5 in a row. Then now you lose 3 in a row, get 4 in a row now. You get swept out of San Francisco before coming home to face the Chicago Cubs. And this is a very rough. The Phillies have a 10-game road trip starting in a week where they play Atlanta, they play the Mets, they play some tough ball clubs, they play Arizona, they play some tough ball clubs, and they're going to be away for a while. They're 3 games under 500 now. When June hits, I would love to see the Phillies hit when June hits. I'd love to see a consistent offense. I'd love to see the arms settle in because, when it comes to this Phillies squad, consistency is the thing that we're grasping at and trying to keep a hold of. And whether it's the bats, whether it's the arms, they seem to never match up. And, boy, if the Phillies can't figure this one out, and there's a lot of reason to believe they won't, especially when you look at the idea that you have essentially right now 0 starters that you can really rely on. That's not good. I think Wheeler and Nola will pitch better. I think Ranger just coming back is great, but we're not sure what kind of year he's going to have. He's got 1 start. He's allowed, 4 runs in that 1 start? Then they got the win. It's a tough thing to look at here with this Phillies team. Everyone said we were doomed. Maybe it's not just that's related to the 76ers. Maybe it's just something that we all have to accept. Coming up a little bit later in the show, we're going to hear from Jason Kelsey. He addressed the media yesterday. I want to talk about some things that he got into. But before we get to Marcus Hayes, let me tell you about my friend Steven Singer at Steven Singer Jewelers, the other corner of 8th and Walnut, right there on Jewelers Row. For over 40 years, Steven Singer has been in the love business in Philadelphia, helping people get engaged at the other corner of 8th and Walnut. You'll get walked through everything by a real jewelry expert, and you'll enjoy the benefits of the perfect price. And what's that? The perfect price is something that where other jewelers are marking things way up, just to mark it down a couple of bucks in front of you, try to sell you even more. Steven Singer just keeps it at that perfect price, so you don't have to worry about haggling, negotiating. You don't have to have that pressure. You just sit down and relax and worry about that beautiful piece of diamond jewelry that you want to buy. Steven Singer Jewelers, one place, one price, perfect price, online at IHateStevenSinger.com. That's IHateStevenSinger.com. Without further ado, we're going to talk to a man that was in the locker room after the Sixers lost another Game 7 of a Eastern Conference semifinals, a man that asked the question to James Harden about Doc Rivers, about whether or not he wanted him back. From Inquirer.com, our friend Marcus Hayes joins the show. Now the Rothman Orthopedics guest line from Inquirer.com, from WIP Radio. You know him. Chances are you very much love him. Mr. Marcus Hayes. What's going on there, Marcus?
Not too much. How you doing, Mark?
I'm doing great, and I really try not to let this affect the rest of my day, but it's on repeat, Marcus, in my brain from Daryl Morey's press conference. We have a roster built to win. We have a roster built to win. And the thing about it was, I think it was Deuces Rogers that asked a question to 6ABC, and he said, he asked a question about requirements for a new head coach. So it had nothing to do with the answering the question. It was all about the roster. He took it to the roster and involuntarily said, we have a roster built to win. I think evidence would suggest they don't, unfortunately.
Well, I think he was saying we have a roster built to win, but we didn't have a coach that could win with this roster that I've built, because I built the roster. I didn't hire the coach.
Oof. That's a great point. I look at this roster, though, and I know the news has come out. I saw the report out there that it looks like James Harden is planning to opt out of his contract with that player option. That makes me feel better about the Sixers' future. Does that make you feel better about the Sixers' future?
I think he's still going to opt out, and this will make you feel horrible.
Oof.
He's going to want a 4-year, $210 million deal, and they sound like they're ready to give it to him. So. No, that does not make me. I don't care if they win, lose, or dissolve the franchise. But if you're a Sixers fan, and I think most Sixers fans are kind of like, well, we tried James Harden. He's better than Ben Simmons, who was giving us nothing. We tried it. It cost us, $70 million. We gave it the old college try. James is 33 years old. He's averaging 20 points a game in the playoffs after averaging 30 points a game in the playoffs up until 2021. He's an older player, and he has to play a different role. He's tried. We had a Hall of Fame coach who was a point guard who tried to convert him into like being a true point guard with other pieces around him, and it worked okay. Like, it was pretty good. They're a pretty good team. They lost probably to the best team, which isn't a very good team, but it's probably the best team left, maybe the best team in the NBA. Probably not the best team if Giannis is healthy, but they're good enough to win games, and they're good enough to win series. But, the question you asked a second ago, Daryl Morey thinks they would have won the series if Doc Rivers wasn't the coach. It's just that simple. The question you're asking now is, if you're a Sixers fan, should you be happy for more James Harden down the line? My observation would be certainly not, and absolutely not at $50 million a year.
I could not agree with that thought more. You saw what happens in Game 6, what happened in Game 7, the explanation that was given after both those games. After Game 6, you heard Joel Embiid said, well, as a big, it's hard for me to demand the ball. And I'm thinking, how did you win the MVP award if it's that difficult?
Oh, he was demanding the ball. Yeah. He was just not receiving the ball from James Harden.
Okay. All right. So Joel
Embiid said, it's hard. I didn't touch the ball in the last 4 minutes. He didn't say, I took myself out of the game for the last 4 minutes. Right. He said, I didn't touch it. Mm-hmm. That's saying that my teammates did not give me the ball when I presented myself as available.
Gotcha. Understood. So when it comes to the performance of James Harden and Joel Embiid, I find it difficult. How does one look at the coach and say that's the problem when you look at the stars that didn't play up to snuff, especially in those two games?
Well, to play devil's advocate, I don't think it was the coach. I think the coach put them in a position to win. James Harden shot the ball twice in the second half of Game 6, 2 times. Then he blamed the refs. Okay, in Game 6 and 7, he made 7 field goals and had 10 turnovers. 2 games combined. Okay, this is not Doc Rivers' fault that James Harden performed at this level. It's James Harden's fault. Now, if Daryl Morey wants to believe that another coach would have gotten more out of James Harden and therefore the collective, I guess that's his prerogative. I mean, Josh Harris has given him the keys to the kingdom to do with to do as he pleases. He's replaced the president. You know, he's signed PJ Tucker. He's signed James Harden. He signed he traded for D'Anthony. I mean, he believes that he is, and I guess he has to believe that. He believes that his formula will work. And honestly, if you're Josh Harris, you hire him to give him the keys to the kingdom. So you and I can, bitch and moan all we want about, well, James Harden isn't this, Joel Embiid should be this. Daryl Morey's making these decisions because Josh Harris is letting him.
Right.
And remember when we used to complain about Joe Banner and Jeffrey Lurie interfering with the front office? Okay, well, either change the front office or change the ownership. Neither of those things is going to change. So I know that's sort of tangential, but the reality for me is you have a general manager who believes in James Harden and has believed in James Harden for 13 years.
It sounds like to me, when you throw out the numbers, especially $210 million, and you're talking about a 4-year deal for James Harden, a depreciating asset, in my opinion, and one that hasn't been able in his own career, whether Houston, whether Brooklyn, or whether obviously here in Philadelphia, really put forth that deep playoff run. I just can't have confidence in the 76ers future that the process in any way, shape, or form will ever really pay off. And I can't help but feel this way.
The process has always been a fraud.
Oh, no, I don't disagree with that. In terms
it's a losing culture. Joel Embiid is a losing player. Daryl Morey has won exactly as much as James Harden has won. No,
I agree. Yeah,
I went out and hired this guy to win here, having not won for 10 years in Houston. So yeah, the process for me after about the 5th or 6th year was just a joke, because at that point you were getting very, very little return. So the process has been dead for me for, and it'll be 11 years if they win it all next year.
Oof.
So it was always a farce.
Okay. Fair enough.
I think we're sort of in the second phase of it. At this point in the process, you were supposed to have contended for championships for multiple seasons. The problem is the gemstone of the process has been out of shape, injured, and soft. That's the way it goes. It's just the way it goes. And they hired a tough guy coach. They signed a tough guy player. And that didn't change that much. Joel Embiid disappeared in Game 7. Joel Embiid had to be coaxed through Game 5 by PJ Tucker. Joel Embiid's going to be 30 next year. He's a veteran. He's a perennial all-star, and he's never been even close to a champion.
No, I agree on all counts. But I'll focus on Joel Embiid right now since we're on that subject. When it comes to what's next for the Sixers team, I mean, last year I think a lot of people would have said, you're crazy if you even entertain the idea of trading Joel Embiid. This year, I think it's something that people have to really think about in terms of entertaining offers out there. What do you think of the idea of just blowing the whole thing up and starting over?
Well, they should be further away from considering trading Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid's become better the last 3 seasons. He's gotten in better shape. He's been a better player. He had his best season. Joel Embiid's not the problem. The satellites are the problem, and the chief satellite was James Harden. I think it was 3 years ago. My contention was, if you believe that Ben Simmons can win a championship for you, then you and I, we just disagree. If you want to win a championship, you need a point guard that can do 3 things. Number 1, he can handle the ball without turning it over. Ben Simmons is a turnover machine. Number two, he has to be able to be at least a semi-threat from outside. And Ben Simmons wasn't that. Number three, you have to be a pretty versatile defender. You have to be able to guard at least two players on the court. Optimally, the scoring guard on the other team. And I said, I would trade Ben Simmons right now for Drew Holiday. And a year later, Drew Holiday was a champion.
Mm-hmm.
And I was laughed out of the room. Ben Simmons was supposed to be an MVP candidate. Ben Simmons was supposed to be the new Magic. Ben Simmons didn't want to shoot the basketball. And Drew Holiday, who they could have had for his entire career, who they traded for the rights to draft Nerlens Noel, the very first piece of the process puzzle, Drew Holiday was available, and they said no.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Drew Holiday, you look at a bunch of guys. I mean, hindsight, looking at the draft is what it is, unfortunately. But when it comes to the new head coach, I'm going to switch gears and talk about the next head coach of the Sixers. Is there a name that's been mentioned or a name that maybe hasn't been mentioned yet that makes the most sense to you to take over from Doc Rivers that can actually get more out of these players?
In 2020, I suggested that Dawn Staley be the new Sixers head coach. She said she wasn't interested. Since then, she's interviewed in Portland. I still think she'd be the best option as the new Sixers head coach. That would cost you James Harden. James Harden would not play for Dawn Staley, I don't think. But I don't know who he'd play for. The best coach out there, I believe, the most versatile, innovative, bright coach out there, I believe, is Nick Nurse, who was fired from Toronto, but won with Kawhi in a very strange situation, beat a very good Sixers team with, I think, an inferior team that went on to win the NBA championship. He's probably the best coach out there for my money. That said, one of the interesting things in Doc Rivers' thank you message to Philadelphia was, he was astonished that the Sixers fans and media were so intense and critical. I'm not sure Nick can handle that sort of intensity and criticism, having had one job in Toronto. Being in Philadelphia and being a coach of a pro team in Philadelphia is traumatic. And I'm not being facetious. It's
right.
A traumatic thing. You are disrespected. You are treated unfairly. You have to deal with a lot of people who don't know what they're talking about. But this is true in every market. But you can't bully the Philly media and the Philly fans, which is what coaches who are confronted with those situations do in other markets.
Understood. When it comes to the rest of this roster, though, it seems like the Harden Embiid thing, from what you're gathering, is not a far cry. And from what Daryl Morey told us today in his press conference, that yes, he would like to have James Harden back. He said he couldn't get into details about it, but it seems like we're in for more of the same, and it's all depending on whoever's going to take over for Doc Rivers.
Let's be very clear about something.
Yeah.
Whoever takes over for Doc Rivers will be hired by James Harden. James Harden, they're not going to hire a coach that's going to cost them James Harden. James Harden may not choose the coach, but he will at least have to endorse the coach, because Joel Embiid has no say. We've come to realize that Joel Embiid, who endorsed the heck out of Doc Rivers after Game 7, to me, wanted Doc Rivers to stay, and he didn't. And James Harden didn't want him to stay, and he's gone. So whoever comes in, I know Daryl Morey said, number one, he said, James had no influence. James had a good relationship with Doc, even though in answering my question, he said, it's okay.
Yeah, right.
And not answering the second part of my question, do you want him back? He just walked away. Daryl Morey refuted that by saying, oh, well, it was an emotional moment and, heat of the moment. It was the same heat of the moment, emotional moment for Embiid, who endorsed him. Okay. Mm-hmm. Number one. Number two, Daryl Morey said, even if James Harden had said, I won't play for Doc, it didn't affect his decision. Well, that's ridiculous. Mm-hmm. And then Daryl Morey said, neither Embiid nor Harden will have any influence over who the new coach is. Again, that's just ridiculous. Of course they will. Why would you hire a coach that Joel Embiid says, I don't want to play for?
No, I 1,000% agree. On that note, to further that, the name Mike D'Antoni's already been mentioned. What would you put a percentage-wise likelihood of Mike D'Antoni possibly becoming the Sixers' next head coach?
if they hire Mike D'Antoni as the head coach, I'd be surprised if the stadium deal ever goes forward.
Wow.
It would be so incredibly unpopular. It would be so incredibly pandering. Mike D'Antoni has been an abject failure. He really has been.
Yeah.
He's not a very good basketball coach, and he's been given lots of talent and lots of chances. I don't know him from Adam, but I know his results, and I know his methods, and I know his theories, and they are flawed and failing. So I don't know that the Sixers ownership group would allow Daryl Morey to rehire Mike D'Antoni in Philadelphia as he employed him in Houston. Mm-hmm. So it's an interesting name, but it would be super unpopular.
I agree with that. The future of Tobias Harris, if anything's going to change in this roster, do you think he has played his last game as a 76er?
I don't know. The NBA, you have to trade money for money, right? Mm-hmm. He's making $38 million. Who's going to take $38 million at Tobias Harris? For what? You don't have assets you can trade with him. So, and Tobias Harris wasn't the problem. He really wasn't. Tobias Harris has earned his money. When given his opportunities, when given touches, he's earned his money. He's changed his role 3 different times. He's been a good teammate. It was Tobias Harris after the Miami Heat series last year who said the Sixers need to get tougher physically, mentally, and emotionally. And Tobias Harris has become a better defender. Not a great defender, but a better defender. One of the big, issues I had with Doc this year, especially in the playoffs, is when Joel's out of the game, Tobias has to be option 1. He has to get the ball. Tyrese Maxey is not a good half-court basketball player yet. He's okay, but he's not good. His value comes in transition. It comes in broken plays. It comes as a slasher off other people. Tobias Harris is a very, very good half-court basketball player. And he's not worth $38 million, but he's also not worth nothing.
Mm. Do you see any excitement in the near future for Sixers fans if, this deal with James Harden does go through?
If James Harden returns on a max deal, I don't think they're going to sell many games out. I think there's going to be there's going to be a big backlash. People aren't interested in the, pity pat. James Harden took an 8-second violation in the playoffs because he was walking up the court. I mean, this Philly is a really good basketball. Philly's a better basketball town than it is anything else. There's more basketball knowledge in Philadelphia than football and baseball, maybe combined.
Totally agree.
Really smart basketball town. You don't see people, unless it's a press situation, you don't see middle schoolers take a 10-second violation. And you got an NBA professional walking up the court taking an 8-second violation. Mm-hmm. It's always 7.5 seconds when he goes over half court. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was a meaningless moment, but that is the antithesis of what Philadelphia wants in its athletes. So if they sign him, I think they're going to realize a serious backlash. I mean, people are going to give up their season tickets. They're going to stop going to the games. They're going to stop buying beer. They're going to stop parking. And, all of a sudden, the guy you're overpaying is costing you money.
Right. Marcus Hayes, I know, look, hey, man, my heart's still with this Sixers team, and it does hurt when they make bad decisions. I have to admit that to you. You know me. That's the way I am, and I'm with you. I agree with everything you're saying as far as the future of this team. It is not bright right now, unfortunately. But please, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you're reading everything from Marcus Hayes, Inquirer.com. Listen to every word, read every word he's got on the 76ers as well as everything else. Doing a great job as a columnist for the Philadelphia Inquirer. Marcus, always great catching up with you, man. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me, Mark.
Absolutely. Marcus Hayes joining us on the Rothman Orthopedics Guest Line. I don't feel any better about the Sixers. I feel worse. Marcus Hayes could disassociate himself, and I can't. I wish I was more like Marcus Hayes. Anyway, I've known Marcus for a long time, and he knows that that's me. He knows that that's very much me. Growing up here, being a fan of these teams, going through the years of, the Allen Iverson posters and, going through the years. Clarence Weatherspoon was my first favorite 76er. So, yeah, I'm still invested. I'm not ashamed to say that at all, but it's just that I know some people don't believe you if you're talking to a microphone and you're talking about a team that you've either covered or interviewed players from or whatever it might be. And it sucks to think, because I do think about you. I think about you, the 100% pure fan that is watching this going, what are you doing with my team? Just kind of feel hopeless. And that's how I feel right now with the 76ers team. I feel like they're going to double down on the defunct way of winning. They're like the already proven defunct way of winning. I'm curious because I don't want to believe in doom and gloom. I don't want to be fire and brimstone. I do want to have something nice to look forward to. Yes, part of me is a little tiny bit curious to see what a new head coach would do. But I think the safer bet for sustained long-term success is to blow it all up. The next option down, the easier pill to swallow, is just make sure Harden's not back here and bring in another star. That's what I'm going to be rooting for and really hoping for. And I don't think we're going to get it. Coming up, we're going to hear from Jason Kelce and what he had to say yesterday at his press conference as OTAs are underway at the NovaCare Complex. But right now, let me tell you about the great people of Manscaped. Go to manscaped.com. Get 20% off and free shipping when you use promo code Farzy at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping. You'll love their Platinum Package 4.0, which is their best hygiene bundle yet. It includes their Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, as well as their Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer. And they come with skin-safe technology that helps you reduce the risk of nicks, so you can manscape with confidence and comfort. So check out Manscaped at manscaped.com. Use promo code Farzy for 20% off and free shipping. Join 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped and their skin-safe technology. How about the people at Freestone Farm CBD? FreestoneFarmCBD.com. You'll love their tropical-tasting Bayox that clocks in at a chart-topping 24.1%. And Super CBD, which is half Hindu, Kush, and 21%. Genetics of these guys are off the charts. So try Freestone Farm CBD at FreestoneFarmCBD.com. How about the people at the PHL Sports Station, Philadelphia Sports Station, enhancing your Philadelphia sports fan experience across all social media and blogs? That's PHLSportsNation.com. Let's get into the chat check and see how you guys are doing on this fine morning. Going to start it over at the Farzy Show channel. What's going on with everybody over here? Philly Insider Podcast. Good morning, April. Good morning, Sean. Good morning, April. Like I said yesterday about Doc, if Harden leaves, bye, Felicia. So if Harden leaves, bye, Felicia. I'm fine with that. I think you're saying you're fine with that. I'm fine with that too. You're associating what you said to Doc yesterday, April. I'm a little thick today, Miss Scusi. You applied it to Doc, now you're applying it to Harden. I agree with you on both counts. Sean Gillespie, good morning. Monty, Nick Nurse, Cassell should be the top on the list. No beard. Okay. Philly Podcaster, what's going on? Philly Insider Podcast. Starting a rebuild with Maxey, Springer, Melton, B-Ball Paul is thankfully a much better spot than when we started the process with almost nothing. If you include after Drew Holiday was traded. If you start right there, no Drew Holiday moving forward, yeah, I agree with you. Justin James, start over to beware though, Farzy. Trade Joel to be back where? First round picks in the NBA are fool's gold. Somehow first round picks seem to help a lot of teams. I'd love to have a Giannis. And what was he, 13 or 14? He wasn't 15. Like, I'd love to have those guys. Steph Curry's is another example everyone always throws out there. But I understand they can be fool's gold. I mean, look at the situation we are now with all the first-round picks that the Sixers had. Ben Simmons being a number one overall pick, Markelle Fultz being a number one overall pick. Like, when you really say, like, we can do a whole show. I can do a 2-hour special on just the process. Like, on just how botched it was from so many different angles. Like, it really could not have gone worse. I mean, you made the playoffs, but I mean, after everything that went on, you damn better make the playoffs. You damn well better make the second round of the playoffs, but that's a whole show. Start over I see what you're saying, that it would be possibly starting over and just getting back to exactly where you've been, but I already know the ending here. That's how I feel. I feel like we already know the ending of the Sixers, especially if they run it back with exactly what they have and even with a different head coach. It's not the coach that I had trouble relying on. It's the players. That's what I have trouble relying on. Sean Gillespie, you and I are on the same page. Love Embiid, but everyone should be on the table considering the playoff performance and the past inconsistency. Consistently inconsistent. James, the process sucked. I agree. Only thing to do is blow it up. Cheap game. Oh, the only thing to blowing it up is cheap game day tickets. You're not wrong. April process was a bust. Everyone needs to admit that. When Butler left, it started knocking down the house of cards that was built. I agree. Dan Schwartz, what's up, buddy? Morey got to go. What a clown. I concur. I just have no confidence. No confidence in Daryl Morey changing it around. He at least had this great reputation as this incredible general manager, but like in Philly, he brought James Harden here at a great expense, nonetheless. Didn't turn out to be a great expense because Ben Simmons has barely played. But he traded James Harden. The thing that kicked me in the old behind about that trade was Andre Drummond, because Joel Embiid never had a better backup center than Andre Drummond. That's the thing that kicks me in the old behind about that. But yeah, you didn't get a lot going on there when you traded Ben Simmons. James Harden did not work out, and I hope that that's the end. This is the end where it's all past tense. It's not. And then we signed to a 4-year, $200 million deal. No thanks. Elton Brand. I don't even know what Elton Brand does anymore. Would be weird dynamic having a former teammate as a coach. I'm not all in on the JJ Redick thing, man. I know some people are like excited about that idea. Goo. Trent Grimm reference was the best. It was. I agree. Sean Gillespie, what's going on with that impression? I am not even familiar with Gabe Kapler. To do Gabe Kapler, you just got to channel your inner wrestler and then throw in a hint of interpretive dance. You know, that kind of thing. And some Buddhist philosophies. I don't even know. Anyway. What agents can we get to rebuild? What free agents can we get to rebuild without James loser mentality Harden? Sean Kilrain, what's up? Here we go. What's up there, PJ? Put it in the quarter at the Phillies machine here. If the Phillies can stop being historically bad with runners in scoring position, a lot of issues will disappear. I 1,000% agree. I 1,000% agree. It could be a game, week, a month. OP. What were they in this series? They were, I think, 2 for 28 with runners in scoring position. In the 4-game losing streak, I think they're like 3 or 4. No, they're 2 for 38. I believe is where they're at right now. That's terrible. Anyway, thanks, everybody. You guys are great. Scrolling through. Cal Bundy. What's up, Cal Bundy? Sean Gillespie. I don't think Duck is a tough guy coach. That's why all his teams quit on him. Possibly. Cal Bundy. I hope Joel requests a trade. That is an angle that I am waiting to explore. I got to see what happens next here. It really depends on the next head coach. Because if it is Mike D'Antoni, even if Joel, and Austin Krell told us, 2 days ago, that if Mike D'Antoni was Joel Embiid's choice when Ben Simmons was still here, I get it. But if Mike D'Antoni becomes the head coach and is Daryl Morey and James Harden's choice, then it's like you're hanging around in somebody else's office. And it's like, at what point, if you're Joel Embiid, do you go, oh, now this is everybody else's team and not mine? I couldn't get the ball in my hands at the end of Game 6, and I'm supposed to be the franchise player. I'm supposed to be the MVP. I'm supposed to be the best player in the world, and I can't even get the ball at the end of a game in the playoffs. Game 6, a clincher possibly at home. I can't. I'm shocked you fired my head coach that I liked, and now you're going to bring in another guy who's for this guy? Yeah, okay. No thanks. That would be the most epic plot twist in all of this, is that Joel Embiid requests a trade. It would be, hypothetically speaking. That would be the greatest plot twist possibly. Like, we joked about, like, Sam Hinkie died for our sins, right? Well, like, Joel Embiid would be the process had to die in order to start the new process. Like, that's what it would be. It has crossed my mind, Cal Bundy. Maholy King, what's up? How you been? If Embiid leaves the Sixers, will fall dramatically. I agree. The process was a lie. Harden gives you false hope. Harden, yeah, he gave me false hope. All I've gotten throughout the process years is false hope. Flipping over to the Jacob Media Sports page, what's up? Sean Gillespie. Both chats. Good for you. Joel Embiid has shown himself to not be a leader. Can always grow, but isn't the right one. I concur. Brother Hannibal. What's up, Brother Hannibal? Daryl is full of it. By the way, the Blazers are shopping the 3rd pick. Wants to acquire a game changer to play with Lillard. Huh. Want that to be the other way around. Bad ownership. Looks like Bob Myers going to split with the Warriors. Okay. Yeah. Like I said, the small chance of somebody coming here to help the Sixers win. Very, very tiny chance. Thanks, everybody in the chat. You guys are great, as per usual. 2 things I want to get to you. Let's get to the Morning Rush, brought to you by Sky Motorcars, SkyMotorcars.com. 2 things from Jason Kelce's press conference that I wanted to get to you guys today. One is a fun one, and the other is pretty serious. Jalen Hurts, at the time, signs the greatest contract, biggest contract in the history of football, average annual salary, blah, blah, blah. But Jason Kelce yesterday was asked about if the contract has changed Jalen Hurts at all.
It's like he still has a hunger and a desire to improve and get better, which is a necessity in this league. So I have not noticed anything different other than actually nothing from him. Probably just an aura of I don't know, commas, I guess. But yeah.
An aura of commas around the Eagles quarterback. I expect nothing to change with Jalen Hurts. I think, and I believe him when he said it. Money's nice, but championships are better. And I believe that is his mentality 1,000%. And then this is the more serious thing. And this is the Eagles, what they're going to do with replacing right guard Isaac Seumalo, who played left guard, who has played right guard. And Jason Kelce, any chance he gets, he talks about how great a player Isaac Seumalo, and he's the guy that always was under the radar here in Philly. And the only time we ever talked about it is when he got penalties. But Jason Kelce says we really missed the boat on Isaac Seumalo. Here he is talking about how they're going to replace, if they can replace, Isaac Seumalo at right guard.
Yeah, Isaac is a really, really special player. I know we've said that here for a long time, and I still don't think people really truly grasp what he did for our room and me personally. I think he's, probably the smartest player I've ever been around. Really, really gifted physically, mentally, like across the board. So I think the Steelers are getting a steal. That's a good pun, I guess. I think he's one of the best guards in the NFL, and I think he has been. And I think he's one of the most consistent players I've ever been around, one of the most consistent people I've ever been around. So we're not going to replace Isaac.
Well, that's nice of him to say. It does give me a little bit of concern. Now, he does say that he's eager to see what a guy like Cam Jurgens could do if he gets the opportunity to play right guard. He wants to see what else or who else steps up there for the Eagles at that position. But I have a feeling that there's going to be a couple of games next year. I think the Eagles are going to be fine. I think they're going to win the division. So this isn't an overall huge concern. But I do have a feeling that we are going to, maybe the beginning of the season, maybe it sprinkles throughout the season, where we're really going to appreciate Isaac Seumalo the most we ever have, and he won't even be here anymore. That's how Jason Kelce gives me vibes. And I know we all look at Stoutland University and turn anyone into a successful offensive lineman. That's fine. But with the way Jason Kelce talks about him, I feel like there's going to be moments this season where we look back and we go, man, I miss Isaac Seumalo. Hopefully we don't. Hopefully there's nothing like that. Hopefully Cam Jurgens starts at right guard and Cam Jurgens has himself a Pro Bowl year. Let's hope for that. Thanks for watching, everybody. Appreciate you guys as per usual. Oh, one last thing in the morning run. I mentioned Jimmy Butler's game last night. For those that didn't see the Celtics and Heat play last night, the Heat took the 123-116 game one win over the Boston Celtics. Your boy Jimmy Butler went off, especially in the fourth quarter, helping the Heat to a game one victory. In total, he dropped 35 points on the Celtics last night. 35 points. Yep. Good times. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening to everybody. Appreciate you guys. I'll be back with you guys tomorrow morning. Jim Hyde and Bruce program did a wonderful job as per usual. This is the Farzy Show presented by Steven Singer of Steven Singer Jewelers. One place, one price, a perfect price. Online at stevensinger.com. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. Talk to you guys tomorrow morning. See ya.